A couple interesting things that we talked about are, setting someone up for success. You guys are 100% remote. And I think that's really, really interesting. I mean, I've gone through an interesting transition for our team where I'm hiring people and starting to, manage that hybrid workforce and, considering employees 100%, whole different ball of wax when you're 100% remote. How do you set employees up for success? I know it's not necessarily specifically your role, but from a company standpoint, what does the company do when someone's then brought on when they're not in the office, they're not training in person? How do you guys set those initial new hires up for success?
Yeah. So I love our onboarding process. And we onboard people in cohorts, which I think is really nice. So our onboarding runs every other week. And so we don't just kind of start people haphazardly. And therefore you start with a group of, could be 10, could be 20, could be 25 or so. I think maybe the largest we've gotten is 30-ish in a week, but they all start together and go through 2 weeks of company onboarding. And so for those 2 weeks, they are learning about our culture. They're learning about the different systems we use. One of the things I really love about Zapier, and we are an international company, so we hire people from all different countries. And I think it's really important to make things that could be intuitive in some locations, to make those things really clear and communicate them, because communication styles vary based on what country you're from or things like that. And so we try to be really clear around, here's how we use email. Here is how we use Slack. Here are, exact examples of the kinds of content that would go into a Slack message.
Awesome.
Here's our tone and, communication guide and examples and non-examples of how we communicate with one another, how we communicate externally. Like, we really try to make all of that stuff really obvious. Nice. Because a lot of times, like, if you've worked in similar environments, then it is, you've already learned it. But if you haven't, those are the things that can hold you back. And so we really try to help people climb that learning curve. So the first 2 weeks are really about learning the company and how we operate and the culture, and meeting people across different teams, things like that. And then also getting all of our technology set up, which was, I don't know,
a whole other animal.
Not a tech person trying to figure out what to do with this VPN and all of these things. So I could get onto things. So anyway, we get all those things set up. And then they kind of move into their team and role specific onboarding. But I think that 2-week period to really learn the company and focus on relationships without any sort of expectations of their actual, the role they're doing, is something that we think is really important to our success. And even when you're feeling really urgent and this is a critical hire and you have just a whole pile of work for them to do, we really push managers to give them that 2-week time before we start sort of bringing them into team training.
And is that something, whether you're entry level, junior, frontline, all the way up to, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. It's so cool being in that program as an entry level employee and being there, and whether the person's on the other side of the world or whatever, but having that kind of, hey, I was in the same class as this guy. Yeah. Who, often when we're junior careers, and even still, a lot of people have different people that, are kind of on these pedestals, and it's great to kind of be able to have that personal connection and, have maybe a way to navigate to somebody who's in a more senior role. That's really amazing.